Jessica Monroe had always preferred solitude. Her apartment was small, tucked away on the third floor of an old building in the heart of the city, the kind of place people passed by without a second glance. It was quiet here, almost too quiet, but for Jessica, that was exactly the way she liked it. The floorboards creaked with each step, and the walls, old and cracked, had an eerie stillness about them. It felt like the building was holding its breath, waiting for something. Jessica had noticed it the moment she moved in, but she shrugged it off as the usual quirks of an aging building. Nothing to worry about, right? That night, as the clock struck midnight, Jessica sat at her kitchen table, a half-empty cup of tea in front of her. She had just finished reading a book, a thrilling mystery that kept her up later than she had planned. The apartment was dimly lit, shadows playing across the walls from the flickering light of a single lamp. The phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. At first, she considered letting it go to voicemail, but there was something about the silence of the apartment, the almost oppressive stillness, that made her uneasy. She lifted the phone, her fingers trembling ever so slightly as she pressed the accept button. The seconds ticked by, and all she could hear was silence, just static, the kind of static that made her gut tighten. "Hello," she said, her voice steady but uncertain. The static crackled, and then faintly she heard it, a whisper. "Don't look outside." Jessica froze. Her heart thudded in her chest, but she forced herself to take a slow breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Who is this?" The line went dead, just like that, no warning, no explanation. The call ended with a click. Jessica stared at the phone for a moment, confusion flooding her mind. She glanced around her apartment, the darkness of the room pressing in on her. A prank call, she thought. Some stupid teenager messing with her. But then why did it feel so real? Her eyes drifted toward the window. The blinds were drawn, and through the small gaps, she could see the faintest hint of moonlight spilling onto the street below. It was quiet outside, too quiet. For a moment, she stood still, listening to the silence. Then, against her better judgment, she pulled the blinds aside. Nothing. Her breath escaped in a small, nervous laugh. The street was empty. The faint hum of the city's nighttime life, nothing more than a distant memory. There was no one out there. Shaking her head, she pulled the blinds shut again, chastising herself. "I'm being ridiculous," she muttered, trying to shake the uneasy feeling gnawing at her. But sleep didn't come easy that night. Every creak of the building, every whisper of wind outside, sent a wave of anxiety through her. The clock ticked louder than it ever had before. The sound of her own breathing seemed amplified in the quiet of the room. Eventually, exhaustion won out, and she drifted into a restless sleep. But even in her dreams, she could not escape the feeling that something was watching her. The phone rang again the next night. At exactly midnight, Jessica jumped, her heart racing. She stared at the screen, the unknown number flashing in front of her. The unease from the night before rushed back, settling in the pit of her stomach. She picked up the phone, her fingers feeling cold and unsteady as she pressed it to her ear. "Hello," she said, her voice wavering despite her attempts to sound calm. Silence, and then the same whisper. "Don't look outside." This time Jessica's blood ran cold. Her hand shook as she gripped the phone tighter. "Who is this?" she demanded, her voice rising. "What do you want from me?" But there was nothing but the faint crackle of static before the line went dead. Her mind raced. Was it the same person from the night before? How did they know about the window? The warning felt like a threat, one that clawed at the edges of her sanity. She didn't want to look outside. She didn't want to give in to the fear. But something inside her urged her to check again. Maybe it was just her nerves playing tricks on her. Maybe there was nothing out there. Jessica stood up, her legs weak. She walked slowly to the window, each step echoing in the silent apartment. Her hand hesitated over the blinds. Her breath was shallow. The whisper still lingered in her mind, like an invisible presence that followed her. But then, against every instinct in her body, she opened the blinds. Nothing. Just the street below, empty and quiet, bathed in the soft glow of distant streetlights. She let out a breath, laughing nervously at herself. It was just her imagination. Maybe she was overreacting. She pulled the blinds shut and went to bed. But the silence in the room felt different now, thicker, like the air was charged with something unseen. She didn't sleep well that night either. She heard things. Footsteps, faint tapping sounds coming from the walls. But when she listened closer, there was nothing there. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, waiting. The phone rang again on the third night. Jessica didn't hesitate. She answered immediately, her heart already pounding in her chest. She had been waiting for it, expecting it, and now the fear had become almost familiar. "Who is this?" she demanded, her voice a mixture of anger and fear. "Stop calling me!" The voice on the other end was faint, distant but clear. "You already did." The words froze her in place. "What do you mean?" "I didn't." The call ended abruptly. Her legs went weak beneath her, and she collapsed into the chair at her kitchen table. "You already did." What did that mean? Had she looked outside? Had something happened? Jessica's mind raced as she replayed the events of the last 2 nights. She couldn't remember doing anything wrong. Couldn't remember doing anything that would lead to this. A sudden noise interrupted her thoughts. The sound of slow footsteps. Jessica's heart skipped a beat. She froze, listening intently. The footsteps were getting closer, closer inside her apartment. No, that wasn't possible. The door had been locked. She had checked it. She was sure of it. Her breathing became shallow as she grabbed the nearest object, a lamp, and held it in front of her like a shield. She stood up slowly, every muscle in her body tense with fear. The footsteps stopped. Then the sound of something scraping against the floor, soft and slow, like someone dragging their feet. The apartment was silent for a moment, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Jessica's grip tightened around the lamp, and she slowly moved toward the bedroom door, every step agonizingly slow. She pressed her ear to the wood, straining to hear, but all she could hear was her own pulse thumping in her ears. And then, a sound that made her blood run cold, a faint creak. Her closet door. Jessica didn't move. She didn't breathe. The door creaked again, louder this time, as if someone was shifting inside. Without thinking, she threw open the door. Nothing but her clothes, hanging lifeless in the closet. The room was empty. But then she noticed something. The front door. It was slightly ajar. Her heart stopped. She had locked it. She was sure she had locked it. Panic surged through her veins, and without thinking, she rushed to the door and slammed it shut. She bolted the lock, her hands trembling with fear. She dialed 911, her voice shaking as she explained the situation. The operator on the other end assured her that they would send someone right away, but when the officers arrived, they found no evidence of anyone breaking in. No signs of forced entry, no sign of anything out of the ordinary. One of the officers patted her shoulder reassuringly. "You probably just forgot to lock it. It happens sometimes." Jessica didn't believe him. She knew what she had heard. She knew what she had felt. Something had been inside her apartment. Something had been watching her, and it wasn't over. The phone rang at midnight again, but this time Jessica was ready. She didn't pick it up immediately. She stared at the screen for a long time, her heart thumping loudly in her chest. She had to know. With trembling hands, she answered. The whisper was waiting. "Don't look outside." But Jessica wasn't afraid anymore. Fear had taken root deep inside her, but now it felt like it had become a part of her. She clutched the phone tightly in her hand. "I'm not afraid of you," she whispered, her voice steady despite the storm of terror inside her. There was a long pause, and then, for the first time, she heard something different, a low, mocking chuckle. "Then why are you shaking?" Her stomach dropped. She felt cold all over, the room suddenly feeling much smaller. She could hear the creaking of the closet door, and then the call ended. Jessica knew it was time. The next morning, her apartment was found empty. The front door was locked from the inside. Her phone was left on the floor, the last call still logged at exactly midnight. Jessica Monroe was never seen again. And yet, every night at exactly midnight, her phone rings. No one dares answer. What do you think happened to Jessica? Would you have looked outside? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more terrifying stories like this one, make sure to follow Stories by Night. You never know which story might be real, or if it could happen to you next.